hear myself through my headphones. Yes, man. Like, I feel real good about this right now.
Pay attention, because you are now listening to Permission to Speak Freely.
I'm happy to have a peaceful conversation with you. What the fuck you're not going to do is talk to me like that. You understand?
I yield. My bad.
Yield.
Yeah.
I yield.
Hey, real quick, I'm gonna just start off with a real quick. I guess I want to call it like disclaimer or a moment of transparency or something like that. But I'll say this: we run into listeners. So first part is I don't call our listeners, our followers, supporters, whatever you want to say it. I don't call anybody fans, and I rarely say followers. You know, I started saying followers because it's a part of the like Instagram vernacular. Like it's just a part of the language. But I normally call the people that listen to the podcast listeners, right? And I do that intentionally. I don't say the word fans. Like I don't right now still not accepting of like having fans. You know what I mean? Right. So we not celebrities. We're not none of that stuff. Because if I was a celebrity, I'd be getting paid for this, right? You know, we don't get paid. We don't get no money for this, right? We do this for free. I started out this as a chief. Damon started out as a senior chief. Tisha came in as a chief. And we just decided to turn our microphones on, our headphones on, and talk about things that, you know, happens in the Navy, right? Still trying to figure out moving forward with some policies and stuff like that. Fortunately, we've been able to have some really good guests, and we got one today, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But so yes, I don't have like any acceptance of anything that got to do with being like famous or like social media celebrity or nothing. Like I don't want to be that. I don't strive to be that. I just want to be who I am, a chief who turned on a mic and started talking about some Navy stuff. So I want to first thank everybody that support us and all the listeners and all the people that rock with us that I've seen out in public, and that they either like show me love, like right there, like, yo, it's like a quick intimate, like, yo, you
Yeah.
I do that. TikTok, boom, you know. See me in the elevator, like, yo, you the senior chief. Back when I seen you, the senior chief that do that podcast. Yeah. Or a bus stop, or somebody even that'll message me later, like, yo, I saw you at such and such. I ain't really want to, you know, say nothing. It seemed like you were busy, but hey, I love what y'all doing on a podcast. Or even like those chiefs now that, man, it's times I had like a 20, 30-minute conversation with like a chief or something, and then they leave. Like, and right before they roll, they like, yo, man, I just wanted to tell you this too. I watch your podcast, you know, get stuff on it. I like that. That's a dope, cool interaction. And it gives grace to like whatever space that, you know, we in. If you listen to the podcast enough, you also know that I've said it many times that I'm an introvert, right? And what that means is that my energy, like I could be whoever, I could thrive. I'm not saying that I don't thrive publicly, but I really get my energy internally. So if you happen to run into me somewhere, let's say you run into me on a military base. First off, Tish, I don't hang out on military bases. Like, so if I'm on a military base, I'm on a military base. I'm working. I got something going on. I'm working. And that's why I love the people that I get the quick run-ins with. That's like, yo, what's up? Cool. But if you see me on a military base, I might not have all the space that you want me to have if you look at this podcast as anything other than just a couple chiefs talking, right? If you look at it as something that you've now like really, 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 really started to identify yourself with, you feel like you know me and we don't know each other, and you might want more out of that exchange than I'm able to give, you know, and I'm sorry, but I'm not able to give it. You know, that's just what it is. You know, if I could, and I'm not a horrible person. I'll talk to everybody I see. We cool. We dab it up. We vibe. But if we don't know each other, we just don't know each other. And that's how you're going to feel. You know, you're not going to feel like we knew each other for 20 years. You listen to my podcast for the last 5 years, but you're not going to feel like we've known each other. You know, and I just don't know. I'm saying that because, hey, Tanya, what's up? And but I'm saying that because I just don't want nobody to feel slighted if they see me somewhere and like want more than I'm able to give in that moment. You know, I didn't sign up to do that. And just the last part of it, just to kind of bring it back, is celebrities, that's how they make a living by those kind of interactions. They thrive off of that stuff, you know? I feel like as a part of what they do that yo, you got to do that. And some of that is like obligatory. Like you got to do that. For me, I don't have to do that. Like we're not getting no money from this. You know, we doing this really out of love, you know? So when we see each other outside, just show love, man. And let's keep it going and have some grace for like what I might have going on. You don't know, man. I got 16-month-old baby. She is running around our house.
Like
she
as
is
we
running
speak.
around our house. And it sounds like she weighs 300 pounds now. You know? And she's like 25 pounds. That's what I got going on, you know? So it's every single listener and everybody that support our podcast for the last, at this point, 5 years, thank y'all, appreciate y'all. And I promise from the bottom of my heart, I love y'all. You just might not see me on the best day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that, Tish. I don't know if you ever had to deal with that or anything like that.
No, I've had quick run-ins and they're the same where they'll be like, hey, or I'll have the ones that's like, you look familiar. And I'm like, and I never say, I never come out and say, I'm from, PTSF unless they say it first. Otherwise, I don't ever think that that's where they know me from. I start naming off commands. I'll go through my whole bibliography and they like, nope. And I'm like, oh, no, then.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Right? But I have had someone that said, actually, it was at Alana Abernathy's event. We had her on, 3 times now, but she came on for our Women's History Month this year. And we talked about women's health and she had a seminar. So I went to her seminar and it was like mostly active duty because that's like her crowd. And there were people that were kind of like looking at me like, I feel like I know you from somewhere. Yeah. And then this one girl, she was whispering to the other girl. She said, hey, are you from the podcast? And I was like, yeah. She's like, okay, yeah. Now I want to be like, don't tell nobody else. And you just want to be in the moment. You just want to, just kind of, I just want to live just like everybody else.
Yeah, we're not nobody. I'm not, well, you might be somebody, but I'm nobody.
No, I'm really just, listen, I got the same headphones y'all gave me day one. Like, I'm just little old me. I do not think I'm, Michelle Obama on the podcast. I don't. I promise. I'm just LNC retired. That's all. And I don't want to talk about Navy outside of this podcast or if I bring it up.
No pod would be on the street.
Right?
We ain't
potting on the street because I ain't talking about the Navy. Unless you want to hear about disability. Unless you want to hear about that pension.
Yeah.
And I'm my base CMC, right? So if you see me on my base,
you really,
I'm working, man. I ain't nothing I got going on there that ain't work. You know what I mean? Like, I'm working, man. I'm at an MWR event. Yeah, I'm having a good time, but somewhere here, I'm at work. I'm on escalation.
What you said is, I don't want to be there. I'm here because I have to be here.
I'm working. Like, I'm not vibing out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not here to vibe with you, man. And if you see me out in town in DC or something, I'm probably still not here to vibe with you.
You say that, but it's funny how people, once you become, even though you don't want to be, once you become a part of what people see as, you may not see yourself as a celebrity, but when you become part of what people see as celebrity status, they automatically think you're supposed to surrender your time to them. Period.
Yes.
It's funny because they wouldn't do it, right? They wouldn't do it. What they expect because you are this figure that they see on the internet.
Yeah.
That you're supposed to surrender your time to them. And for the most part, we try, right? We try to go, okay, it's cool. Let's chat it up. But there's sometimes like, listen, that's something to do. How much time it is? And you try to gracefully go, hey, ha 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 ha, cool. But I gotta go. And they continue to try to keep that conversation going. And you're just like, and then they get mad when you walk away and like, oh, you better. No, I'm still in the Navy, fool.
Yeah. It's entitlement. It's entitlement, Latonya.
Yeah.
Hey, and while we talking, let me just introduce retired NCC Latonya Perossier, right? Welcome to Permission to Speak Freely.
Thank you.
I gotta do something.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, and we're excited to have you here. And I can't wait to get into our conversation. And for the listeners or the people that watch on YouTube that hate hearing us talk about ourselves for the first 10 minutes when we got a guest, I apologize. We just had to get that off. But I want to go back to what you were just saying, because one of the other conflicts I got is, and Tisha probably mastered this already, but it's social media, right? So we all chiefs, right? We all chiefs. So I'll be trying to explain this to my family. Like, us being chiefs mean we got like this fraternal agreement a little bit, right? So now it's to a point where I get a lot of requests from chiefs on social media, on Facebook specifically, friend requests. And because we're chiefs, I normally accept the friend request just out of the fraternal kind of order of what we do.
Right.
But it's getting to a point, right? And I hate the way some of this even sounds. I hate the way some of it even sounds, but it's just realistic. It's getting to a point that some of these people that's friend requesting me, they not friend requesting me based off the fraternal order of the Chiefs mess.
Nope.
They're friend requesting me from being podcast listeners. I got no issue with that. So, but the reason I accept most of it is because we chiefs. So if I wasn't a chief, I probably wouldn't even have at this point, I probably wouldn't even have a public social media account, because Facebook is, in my opinion, a little bit more close than like Instagram or some of the other ones. Like we calling people friends when we accept, versus follower. So I'm even struggling with that. And hey, shout out to everybody that listened to the pod that recently I accepted, I accepted them all, but I'm even struggling with that. And not from the ones that's cool, but from some people that like kind of go crazy after you accept them, like just do too much. And some people do. I think I had to block one person, already.
And I'm okay with it. I will.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad when you do it.
Yeah. And
don't feel bad when you do it. I tell people I blocked my sister. You ain't got a chance, player.
Yeah.
I will block my sister.
We don't stand a damn chance. We don't stand a chance.
So I got a question for you. I was looking through it. So we getting ready to do the episode, right? And for the listeners, this is this discovery right here with Latonya, right? It's gonna be more discovery than anything. But as I was getting ready to do the episode, I was looking through your Instagram, and one of the things I saw was that you were like going to every like not every, I'm exaggerating, but you was going to like every Navy week, every like event.
Absolutely.
Coming up to your retirement, right? So my question was, when you were going to all those fleet weeks and those Navy events, were you going to them because it was coming up to your retirement and it was like just your last run of it, or were you going to it just because it was a part of your job at the time?
So it was literally part of my job. Because we used to be diversity outreach. And then, of course, the change happened and we had to change our name to community outreach. Our particular job was we went to every Navy week, every fleet week. And our jobs were to go and infiltrate the schools, have presentations. I did so many news interviews, just kind of getting the Navy out there on the side of diversity, letting people know what we had to offer, especially when it came to scholarships and stuff like that. So a lot of times when I would go to the fleet weeks, I was going there as a representative trying to influence people to look at the Navy and look at what we had to offer as far as scholarships, actually just being enlisted, or, just being interested in what our programs were.
Yeah. What command was this?
NRC. I worked for NRC, but we used to be called diversity. I can't remember what we were called, but it was diversity outreach. And then, of course, the change came. So then we became community outreach. So we couldn't say diversity anymore, but we were the same program. But we had about 5 scholarships that we promoted. So my job was to go and speak at every high school, college that we could talk at. Anytime the news was there, I would talk to the news about the different scholarships. I would talk. We have this. It used to be called the Nimitz. Now we have what is called the Strike Group, and we revamped the whole thing. The Nimitz was this big 18-wheeler that popped out into a whole virtual reality thing that kids could go in and they rescue SEALs from like a mission. So that was their job. And then we came up with this whole Strike Group. Our marketing company, the marketing company that the Navy works with, they came up with a thing called the Strike Group. And now it's like 3 or 4 different events where you can be a pilot, a diver, couple other things. And you actually get to go in and drive a boat via, virtual reality. But it's super, super cool. But we got to do that. And it makes people think about what it is that they could possibly do in the Navy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you brought up the Nimitz, and real quick, I just don't want to, man, I don't want to not say this, and this kind of like an interruption and like conversation, but the Navy just did suspend a 5-day-long search for a missing sailor from the Nimitz carrier strike group in Guam.
Yeah.
The sailor looked like the sailor was on the Nimitz, and they were scheduled for a port call in Guam. So I do, they suspended it, so maybe it might be premature to say rest well, but I'm going to say rest well and thoughts and prayers to that seller's family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's always hard. That's always.
And Damon is on the Nimitz right now. Ain't that his ship? Ain't that Damon's ship? Yeah, Damon on the Nimitz. So I'm sure, we'll get some from him at some point. But yeah, so back to whatever, back to what we were just talking about. What neighborhoods, because when it was first called diversity outreach, right, it's making me assume that it was in like urban communities or something like that.
Absolutely. We went to the schools that were more urban based. And we would go man, I'm telling you, I have been to so many different cities and gotten to talk to these young people. One time we went to California, and I actually, when I do my presentation, I try to make it, cool where the kids will, they'll interact with me and kind of, I make it where they feel like I'm the homie. So, because that's how you cannot do a PowerPoint presentation with these kids, because they are going to zone out on you. And when I finished my presentation, this is when I knew I had it. This young man, we were in Compton, California.
Okay.
We were at a high school, and I did my presentation. And when I was done, this kid walked up to me with an ankle monitor on his ankle. And he said, "You know what?" He said, "Do you think they'll take me?" I said, "Listen, so when you get that ankle monitor off," I said, "I need you to make sure that you are done with whatever it was that you were doing. You need to be done with that." I said, "I promise you we'll give you a chance. You just got to be done with it." He was like, "Cool." And I said, "Okay, I'm reaching him. I'm reaching."
Yeah.
That ain't easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I bet that made a big impact on him too.
Oh, absolutely. I knew that I was reaching them. I said, "Okay, I got this."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
and
easy.
It simply is just making them understand that there's so many choices out there that we make. I tell kids, I said, man, when I joined the Navy, I was from the hood too. So the hood girl in the building. Understand the hood, went through all the things that you think you in your mind. But I understood that I wanted something better for myself. I understood that there was something out there that was better for me. And I did every step there was that was going to take me to get there. And that's what you have to do. And this is that's a part of my speech is, hey, there are some steps. And I tell them my famous line to every student, every time I left a classroom, I said, "Listen, I need you to think about where you see yourself in the next 5 years." I said, I want you to write on a piece of paper 1 through 5. And I want you to say, what is it going to take in 5 steps to get where you think you're going to be? And you make them think. You make them think like, okay, where and what and how? And that's what you want to make kids understand is there is a process. This generation is the now. They're always thinking about the now, and they don't think about what it is in the future. So if you make them think about, okay, what is it right now? If I wanted to be whatever it is in the next 5 years, what are the 5 steps it's going to take for me to get there?
Yeah.
You make them think.
Yeah.
When it comes to the high schools, what are the biggest misconceptions that you find that they have of the military?
Baby, that I was at a school. This is about to be so stupid, but one girl, she thought she was gonna stomp the chump. Girl, oh, baby girl. She was like, "Well, why do they all? Why do all the women in the military get raped? Girl. So all the women. So I'm standing in front of you, all the women, right?
Wow.
And I had to have that conversation with her because it was a real conversation. And when she said it, you could hear the air come out of the room because then everybody else was like, wait, well, why? And you have to have those real conversations. You have the craziest questions. Why do y'all kill, have you killed anybody? Those kind of questions. These kids want to know real stuff because they play these video games with the shooting and so you don't get to have the conversations like, well, do you get to be with your family? Like we used to ask back when
Right.
I want to be with my family. Can I still be with my family? That's not the questions they're asking. They're asking like, have you killed anybody? Do you get to shoot a gun? How many, why do women get raped in the military? It's different. So you have to have an answer for them because you can't, when they throw that question out there, you can't beat around that question.
Yeah.
You have to have a real answer for them. And you have to be very, very ready for that question. So we're constantly, especially we used to bring junior officers with us. And junior officers, ensign to lieutenant commander, considered junior. So we would select diverse junior officers and we would train them on how to present in front of these young people. And if you got a question like this, here's how you answer it.
Yeah.
Because, junior officers sometimes are not very versed in that kind of combat. Us chiefs, we know how to get down with the get down. We're going to get down with the get down with you because you think you're playing with me. But they're more of a, they're on the other side.
Polished.
Yeah, they're
we take the risk. Yeah, we always do.
Right. So we had to teach them how to toe that line and not say something just so egregious that we can't recover from.
Right.
Yeah, and that it's not easy. It's not as easy, and it's for the listeners more so. Just listening to you talk about it, I already know it's not as easy as, it looks for some people. Some people it might happen naturally, but it's not as easy as it looks because even with sailors that's in the Navy now, that's a little like that's just joining the Navy, sometimes it's a block or like a resistance to listening to people that's a little bit more senior. So being able to go somewhere that's not even in the Navy, like a high school, and be able to translate what we do, it's just, man, that's profound in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
It is. In the beginning, we were like, it was small. We were working small. And then it just got so big and so important because a lot of the districts were like, they weren't helping us. Like they weren't, we would call them and say, hey, let's set up a meeting. We need to tell you what we're going to do, how this thing works. Yeah. And they would be like, but then these districts start seeing what we could accomplish and how we were doing this. And they started requesting us to come because sometimes people don't see the importance until it's important.
Right.
And so we would get there and, in the beginning, they would like, whatever, y'all just go do your thing. And we would have like the commanding officers come and hear us speak. And once they started hearing us speak, then they started calling other districts and saying, hey, man, you got to get these people to your district. They are doing a phenomenal job. And we, tooting our horn, we did a phenomenal job at getting the Navy out there. And as hard and as much as we could, we got it out there. And we were like, listen, this is it. We might not be the best, but we the best.
It's like the Suicide Squad.
Almost.
We ain't the Avengers. We the Suicide Squad.
Yes.
But this sounds like a great way to go out too, though. Because this was your last tour.
God.
Right?
It was so. I used to always say, man, I was in recruiting for 20 years. So I was a recruiter for a long time. And recruiting sucked. Don't let nobody tell you that it sucked. But I was good at it. So it was like my thing. So once I became an NC, there was no going back. Like I couldn't say, oh, I don't want to do this no more. So you had to make it your own, and you had to figure out how to remain successful, or they would get rid of you. You know what I mean? So when I got to this department, and it's so funny, I was not supposed to go to this department. I had interviewed to be a instructor. I said my last tour, I want to be an instructor because I wanted to get my, my master training specialist certification, because you know how we do.
Yeah.
You know.
Need it for the outside.
Right? So I wanted to.
Let me get that on my resume.
And did. That's what we want. Because we working on our exit, right? This was my last tour. And I said, okay, I want to be a master training specialist. I interviewed for the job, did great. They said, okay, good, you got it. So I'm waiting for my orders. 3 months before it's time for me to leave, I don't have orders. I'm like, what's happening? I called the master chief up at NRC. I'm like, yo, where's my orders? He's like, oh, you're not going.
Not to the NC.
Listen, my mouth is slick. So I said,
the okie doke on the NC.
Baby. And so, I got a slick mouth. So I said, what I do? Because I obviously had done something and was trying to figure out who I pissed off. And he was like, no, the Admiral wants you to come and be a part of this program, the diversity program. So when I got to Millington, I sat down with the Admiral. I was like, yo, I'm not going to make senior chief from this, because I knew I would make senior chief from being an instructor.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But when I tell you it was the best thing I could have ever done, not making senior chief did not matter, because I made a difference in that. I went to our community. And even today, these kids still text me and say, hey, I didn't get the scholarship. What else can I do? And that to me is that's better than anything I could have ever done. So even though I didn't want to be a part of that department, it was the best thing I could have ever done. And I am so proud and so happy that I got the opportunity to do it, because it was amazing, y'all. And it's still amazing. Like some of the programs that department has now, like we were doing the Black College Expo. I was online just going, looking for stuff for us to do to get kids and get scholarships out there. And I saw this program, and it was the Black College Expo. And I reached out to the guy. We did a conference call with them, and the Navy said, yes, let's do it. And we got a partnership with these people. So we were going to the Black College Expo. I was having an opportunity to speak to these hundreds, thousands of kids and saying, listen, here's some scholarships that you probably never heard of. And they look like us, because that the officer rank don't really look like us that much.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and we have a lot of kids that have gotten those scholarships because they knew about the information and they applied.
Yeah. Well, what I want to say about the rank thing you was just saying was, like, it's not on you, it's in you. Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, especially later in our career, we get so caught up. Hear me go, right? I done made master chief shit, right? But even as a chief, I had the same, I had the same thing in mind. But a lot of us get so like, we thinking about that next rank, that next rank.
Yeah.
And some people, and I'm glad you didn't, but some people get like sour about it. Like they nothing else matters but making that rank. And they start doing things even outside of what they should be doing, instead of just taking care of themselves, doing what you're supposed to do and making an impact. And sometimes you forget about the impact that you like are making because you think you're not good enough for whatever it is, that next rank. And then your scope of responsibility gets bigger. But after you make chief, you're a chief.
Right. That's it.
And
that's what I had to learn.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I remember being at NRC, we used to have these little meetings with the cause. And I loved, this man was so awesome. We would have to pick certain sailors, and we have like a luncheon with them. And one day he said to me, he said, "Hey, Chief," he said, "I don't know what you do." He said, "But these sailors love you." He said, "What?" What do you do? He says, "You're always smiling when you're walking down the hall." And I said, "You know why I do that? Not that I'm having a great day every day, because I don't. I hate being up here, really. But let's be real. It's NRC. It sucks. It's stupid." But I knew that somebody needed it.
Yeah.
I knew that somebody needed a smile. And I don't know who, but I knew that somebody needed somebody walking down the hall to be smiling.
Yeah.
And I never knew who that person was.
And
so
we don't know the
I always
impact
made
of
sure when I walked out of my office, no matter how stupid I had just had a conversation, I knew that when I walked out of that office, I needed to be smiling walking down the hall. Because those junior sailors at NRC struggle. So when they see a chief that's going to give them a smile and give them something kind, that meant a lot.
Yeah.
Because you don't get a lot of kindness up there.
Yeah. And I'm happy to hear that, because a lot of these shore duties right now. Well, I got a quick question for you, though. When did they drop the diversity in the name of what you were doing?
So I got there in 2001. By 2003, dropped it.
Okay, so they is ready. They're getting ready. But like, so a lot of these sailors, a lot of these commands, these shore duty commands, they operate in so unorthodox nowadays, right? Like, so they don't even operate like regular commands. So you really gotta take care of the sailors in a way that like they ready for the next tour, or they ready for whatever, because these shore duty commands ain't, they just not, they doing everything different, new or whatever like that. So for the listeners, two moments of transparency. The first one is that if we ever use the soundbite from Shannon Sharpe, it was Damon's idea. It was Damon's idea. And we are, moving forward, we are retiring all Shannon Sharpe sound bites. It's over. It's over,
done.
dog.
It's done.
Shannon Sharpe is officially, in my opinion, the crash out caveman. Like, what is wrong with you, dog?
It's over. It's a wrap.
So
it's a wrap.
And I keep wondering, like, why they keep doing it.
Yeah, like, he is. That dude's a fool.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? Yep.
That dude's a fool.
How many times we gonna keep making the same mistakes before we figure out?
Yeah, he's stupid.
That you need to come on back.
Him. But she had him lined from
the beginning.
Dummy.
Yes, from the beginning.
The way she talked, that's like, me talking to you, and I'm like, hey, so are you gonna like go around the corner, Tisha? Are you gonna go around the corner, our Tisha? Like she was like, shit, that happened to me before. So real quick, it's funny because I had another moment of transparency, and the reason why I paused it. The reason I paused it is because like your book just got delivered. So we're gonna get into that in a second, right? So hey, for the listeners, the second moment of transparency is that we just came off a real quick pause so I could get Tanya's book from the mail, right? But we're gonna get that in a second. So, I used to work at Wendy's, right? And when I worked at Wendy's, I used to talk to two girls at the same time, right? And they both worked at Wendy's, right? So, but these was my Wendy's girls, right? So these were my Wendy's girls, right? And this I worked at the Wendy's twice. This was before my Navy Wendy's run, right? So I remember, like, they had so I got my wisdom teeth pulled out or whatever, and so my jaw was all messed up. I couldn't go to work. So one of them had called me, and she was like, "Hey, Damo." I'm like, "Yo, what's up?" And I'm like, "Oh, she got like right then and there." I was like, "She must be with like Chanel," and that's really the girl name. I was like, "She must be with Chanel," and they like lying to me right now. Like I knew it from like that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know what's wrong with Shannon Sharpe. I knew it from there, and then we had like a 6-minute conversation, and I like denied everything, and then when it was over, I called them both and like greased the skids with both of them, and then everything was still the same. You know what I mean? That's why when I hear Shannon Sharpe like have this conversation with this lady, and she's saying these things like, yo, and I'm not saying Shannon Sharpe is like right? I don't want nobody to think I'm saying he right. But she was lining his ass from the beginning.
Yeah.
Put a baby in me.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
How is your big age you don't recognize?
Who does listen? Yeah. I am 52 years old. And what I do know about being at this age, there ain't much you're going to get over on me.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it. This one story I would love to tell, but I don't know if I could with one of my sailors. This shit was so insane. And I was looking at this fool like, you didn't know what was happening?
Right. Then they feelings be hurt. If you say it just like that, they feelings get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, if you say like, yo, you ain't know, they feelings get hurt. Like,
they feelings
I had to sit there and look at him and be like, just shut your mouth. Don't say another word. Keep your mouth closed. Go get an attorney. That's all I could say to him after that, because I was looking at him like, you can't be that dummy.
Yeah.
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 And sellers get lined too. Like we get
like, he got lined. Oh. I wish I could tell this story. You would love this story.
They get it. And I was talking to a group of sellers the other day because I was just being honest when I'm like, hey, if you know, because sellers be quick to get married, right? Some of these young sellers be quick to like, you know, and I'm like, hey, if you ask, I'm a supportive person, right? So I default at support. Now, if you say like, hey, Master Chief, let's have a real honest conversation. What you really think? All right, like, I think that's stupid. like I don't think you should do it. You know what I mean? Like that. If you want me to be, you know, like I think, like I've seen this play out. Yes, sometimes it is a miracle, you know, and it's great. But I've seen this play out a lot of the A school boo. You know, you went to Norfolk, she went to California. It might not work out. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you know what it is.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, and they don't want to hear it, you know?
No. Like, listen.
Yeah.
Be smart. Think about it. Sit on it. You know, those kind of words. Sit on it for a week.
Yeah, like, you know, and then, you know, a lot of times it'd be too late. You know, somebody, the other person be like, they already got married. You know, you like, damn, you know, what you talking to me for? You know?
It's funny that you said that because so I got on TikTok. I think it's been like 3 days. I'm about to get back off again. I just hop on and hop off.
Yeah, I saw you on TikTok. I saw you moving around.
I hop on and hop off real quick before anybody see me. And I saw this Air Force guy getting married over like a Zoom call or something. So I don't know if he was like on deployment. He had on his dress uniform. And I was like, for real? Like, dog. Yeah. Like, I was like, if he was in the Navy, I know his chief would be like, what the hell did you do this weekend? Because I was just thinking in my head, like, when he get back to work on Monday, they gonna eat his ass alive.
That BAH hit, it don't matter.
It don't matter.
People be struggling. Like, your girl live in a whole nother country. Your wife in a whole country. Y'all never seen each other.
Yeah. As long as you getting that BAH.
You know they do that for the BAH. So I have a son that's a second class in the Navy.
Oh.
Yes. That fool got married.
Yeah, for real?
Yeah, he did. He got married and didn't tell me.
Oh.
Yeah. You know how I know? Because my niece, who's now a chief now, she called me one day. She said, Auntie, pull up Thailand's fleet tips. I love him. He's like, pull up Thailand's fleet temps. I said,
right.
Yo, you got something you want to tell me?
Yeah. How he respond? He was surprised.
He was like, what you talking about? Boy, don't play with me. I can tell you fleet temps.
Yeah.
Fleet temps are giving them every time, boy.
Maybe
every time.
She's Hawaiian, so she knew. She was like,
yeah, she was ready.
Yeah, she went into his fleet temps. I'm like, what is she doing going through his fleet temps? But I get it. Okay, friend. That's my niece. She's looking out for her cousin. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I tried to do it. I had called my mom one day, and I'm like, and I spoke about it on pod before, but I said, hey, mom, like, what you think if I was to get married? You know, and I already had somebody that was willing to get married. You know, I'm like, what'd you think? And you know, she was like, well, like, how come I don't know nothing about the relationship? None of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, cuz it's not that. I'm like, they got this thing. It's a benefit in the military. It's called BAH. Like I was just trying to explain it to her. Like she's like, well,
she was like, put your dumb ass down, right?
She's on that religious. If it ain't about love, and she gonna listen. Right. I hope she remember that it ain't about love and God and ordained. And I'm like, all right, well, and I didn't want to disrespect this, so I'm like, all right, let me not. And it was actually the person it was like a girl that I dated, her sister. So it was a girl I used to date. Sister, yeah, it was, so I just talked about my Wendy story. Now I'm talking, like, I'm going to get out of my Bessie life, man. Let me get out of my Bessie Junior Seller life.
He's been reformed.
You can't do that.
What's
the
up?
Sister of the...
Yeah, her younger sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted you to hear that. Okay.
Yeah, she matured. The girl I dated, life hit her, differently. So sister, look, let's move on. Oh, I got me in here acting crazy. So
maybe stories in it.
Yeah,
I know we're going to interview Damo one day.
Hey, Tisha, I would love it. I would, Tisha, I would love it. I'm
telling you.
All right, let's. So I just ran to the mailbox, right?
It's still hot off the printer.
Yeah, and I got this book. I just picked it up from the mailbox, and it's called "Letter to the 8-Year-Old Me." And it's written by you.
It's written by me,
Latonya Perossier, right? Yeah. And we said that's a New Orleans last name.
It
right?
is. Mine.
Right, it's his. Yeah, I saw that ring.
I know. I almost had to turn down my lights.
Finger, yeah, you broke your finger. I was like,
right. All right. I'm gonna have to take a screenshot of that thing and be like, "Hey, honey."
Oh, this the one.
I want one like this.
Look, see that one? Like that's
if my finger ain't blinding people.
Nah, he gonna look at that and have to think for a minute. Like, that's gonna be that's our 20-year. That's gonna be the 20-year joint.
He said he's not getting any more. He's not getting any more rings.
Yeah. So let's go back. I can't wait to get into y'all, you meeting him and stuff like that. But this book is because I would ask, like, if you wrote a book on your life, where would you start? But you kind of wrote a book on your life already. Yeah. Where did you start?
I started with that 8-year-old girl because that's where it all began. So the funny thing is, I wrote that book because a friend told me to write a letter to my 8-year-old self. Mm-hmm. I had been going through a whole bunch of stuff. And so one of my girlfriends came to visit and we went on a vacation and we were laying on the beach and just talking. And she was like, yo, you've been acting really weird lately. I need to talk to you when we get back to the hotel. So we sat in the hotel and I just kind of poured it all on her. Here's it. And she said, you need to write that little girl a letter. Mm. And so from there, I said, how do you write a letter to your 8-year-old self? Because it sounds interesting, but how do you do that? Like, what do you say? And literally, y'all, when I tell you that book was written by God, because I am not a writer. Mm-hmm. It would be like 3:00 in the morning and I would wake up at 3 a.m. and I would write. And I would write till about 5 and then go back to sleep. Mm. Mm. And it just kept happening.
Yeah.
And then I just poured it all out. And it was trauma, dramatic, life, crazy, family, love, children. It was just so much. And I had to figure out. And I was not going to publish it because it was too much of my personal. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was too much of my truth. It was too much of my vulnerability. It was too much of things that made me cry. Uh-huh. And I was like, I don't know if I want people to know this, especially not people that I love, to really know what I struggle with.
Yeah.
And I just said, you know what? Maybe it can help somebody else. Because it helped me release it all. Because once I wrote that book, I released it all. When I tell you, girl, I cried so hard and so long. after I wrote that book. Like, it was just a release of, it's done.
Yeah.
Whether I published it or not didn't matter. It was just, I got out of me what I needed to get out of me. That was always, when you operate in trauma so long, you don't even know what operating in just peace looks like.
Yep.
And just once I released it all, it was like this great peace, and it just felt good to just cry it all out. And I was done. And then I said, okay, maybe this book can help somebody else. Maybe. Yeah. And when I published it, I have this letter that this woman wrote me. I still can't read this letter out loud to this day because it makes me bawl every time I read it. Mm-hmm. And she was talking about her trauma and how my book made her, like, I don't know, it made her really just deal with it. Like, and her trauma was so intense. When she told me her story in this letter she wrote me, I was like, God, like, that's all you can do is hope that and even if it helped one person, then I did my job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they say when you go inward, you connect outward, right?
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
Like, and absolutely. And that's a like kind of like a creative, because I was going to ask if you are creative. So I've always been a creative, and like that's kind of how I create by just going inward. You start to realize that you really do connect with way more people like that when you kind of connect with yourself.
Yeah.
So who was this 8-year-old? When I start going through these pages and I start getting a grasp of who you were as this 8-year-old girl, who were you?
She was very sweet. I as an 8-year-old, I always wanted to be something, like I wanted, even at 8 years old, I remember looking through magazines, and I grew up extremely poor. I remember my mother used to have to get our clothes from the Goodwill.
Yeah. Where was this at?
And we started out in Louisiana, and then my mother left my dad and moved to Texas. And so we lost everything in the move from Louisiana to Texas. The U-Haul overturned, and my mother lost everything.
Oh, wow.
So when we got to Texas, we had nothing. So it was the journey of trying to get back where we needed to be. And being this 8-year-old, I used to look at magazines and be like, I'm going to wear this kind of stuff when I get big. I'm going to get me a job where I can afford to drive this kind of car. I was that girl. I had my own business at the age of 12.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
My mother she managed these apartment complexes. And I wrote in crayon, because I wasn't playing by my business. I wrote in crayon that I was a cleaning service. And I put it on the little board in our apartment complex. And people paid me $20 to come and clean their houses. And I would clean it because my mother was a Louisiana woman. Cleaning was what we did every Saturday. Everybody got up.
Music playing in the background and everything.
Music playing, the Al Green's playing in the back. And you had to clean from top to bottom. So that was what I knew how to do. And I would make money cleaning people's houses. And if they wanted me to start dinner for them, it was an extra $5.
Yeah.
So but that 8-year-old girl lived in a lot of trauma. I started being molested at the age of 8 years old.
Was it a family member?
Started out.
Oh, so it was more than one person.
Yes, and also my godfather. And in my mind, his wife knew, and I don't know if she knew or not, but in my mind, she knew.
Yeah, and then so before we start this conversation, you give me a little bit of grace because
absolutely
of I'm very empathetic, but I also I'm very inquisitive too. So sometimes those things conflict with each other, right? But how'd you feel about you when this started? Like, how'd you feel about yourself?
I hated myself. I was trying to figure out how to be unattractive to grown men. Like,
sad.
I didn't understand. And so I started doing things like not taking a bath. because I felt like, if I smell, then they won't want me.
Yeah.
Right. And this happened from the age of 8 to about the age of, I think the last time I was molested, I was 12. And so my anger was towards my family because I felt like they didn't protect me. I felt like they should have known. And even though I never told anybody, because what do little Black kids learn early off? You're a tattletale.
Snitches.
Snitches. Why you snitching on people? So predators, they use that to their advantage. So I never said a word. And all I kept doing was doing different things, trying to make myself unattractive to grown men, and didn't understand how this grown man could find my small, petite body attractive. So I would like hide, or, it was strange, but nobody noticed. Nobody in my family noticed. And I get it. Everybody had their own things going on. And I write about it in my book that I blamed my family because I truly did.
Yeah. I mean, that's.
You know what I mean? But everybody had so much going on. And back then people didn't really, I don't think they really, you always hear about the uncles in the family, don't go by Uncle Charlie, or talk to Uncle Charlie because he gonna touch on you. In our community, we don't talk about that enough. We don't face that enough. We don't have real conversations about that. And even though, it normally is the uncle, but it's everybody. It was the cousin. It was the man who you don't even know. It was your aunt's friend. It was because nobody pays attention to the kids in the room. And so because people don't pay attention, the predators get to pay attention.
Even what I know y'all probably saw Kanye, what happened, like what he said he did to his cousin. He was molesting his cousin at a young age for his male cousin. He was molesting his male cousin like from a lot of years. I think he said like 14 years. I don't want to misquote him, but he was molesting his male cousin. And in our households, and I'm talking about Black families, that, like you just said, it goes unnoticed a lot. Like we talk about other, just I'm speaking right now to the listener as a Black man, we talk about like other households, other families and other stuff, but those things happen in our families a lot. That type of trauma, sexual trauma happens a lot in our families. And sometimes people know about it, and everybody they on a hush about it, or you feel like you're going to get in trouble, you're going to get beat, you're going to get punished and stuff like that. So I could just feel for you as an 8-year-old because you're not socially mature enough. You're not like actually mature enough. You're not emotionally mature enough to really even understand what's going on, know? So like, what was the setting? What was the initial setting when this first happened? Was it like a family get together and you were upstairs and one of those type of things?
So the first thing was my aunt's friend. My aunt was a professional pool player, and I always wanted to learn to play pool, and she was teaching me to play. So I went to her house because I wanted to learn to play, and she had people over, and there was this man in the room. And nobody was really paying attention to me because she already was doing her thing. She was already playing and doing her thing with her friends. And he started to talk to me. And he just politely walked me to the back room and molested me right there. I got up, I put my clothes back on and went home. Never said a word.
Yeah, and I'm assuming they were drinking. It was like a party thing going on.
Yep.
And did he say anything? Did he like threaten you or anything?
He was like, "This is our secret. This is what people do when they love each other." And I don't even know you.
Right.
I don't know you. I don't even know you. But he said, "This is our secret. And this is what people do when they love each other." And I remember that because I was thinking, I don't know you. But in my mind, and so as an older adult, I started to blame myself. I was like, you must have wanted it. Because your mind doesn't, I don't know if your mind plays tricks or what, but I remember blaming myself. I remember blaming my 8-year-old self. And a part of that was forgiving myself for blaming myself.
Yeah, because how did that affect you just to kind of go up a little bit, how did that affect you as a teenager, like a 16, 17-year-old?
Listen, a boy can touch me. A boy can touch me. And as much as I wanted to like boys, and I liked boys, at 14 years old, I remember going, and also I went to go see my friend, and it was kind of late. I went to go see her, and her apartment was on one side, and then there was where I was going to go home was on the other side, and I had to walk through this abandoned apartment area. And I've always been afraid of snakes as a little girl, just scared of snakes. So when I'm walking through this abandoned area, I'm looking down because I don't want to step on a snake. I'm looking down, and all of a sudden someone snatches me, and I'm a teenager. I'm 14 years old when this happens. Someone snatches me, and I immediately grab onto the first thing I see, which was a railing in this old abandoned apartment complex. And I'm holding onto the railing and I'm screaming because I can't see anybody, but I know somebody's pulling me. And I'm screaming and I'm screaming. They pry my hands. There's 3 boys, teenage boys. I go to school with these boys. They pry my hands from the rail. They drag me into the apartment complex. These boys commence to try to rape me. Teenage boys. I'm 14 years old. They're trying to rape me. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
There's no way they know I see their face. Like, are they going to let me go back to school after trying to do this? I'm fighting with everything in me. They take off my shirt. They're pulling on me. I'm kicking. I'm screaming. There's broken glass on the floor. They take my shirt off. All I have on is a bra. I'm sliding on the floor. My back's cut up. I find my way. I get a stick and I start swinging the stick at them. I don't even want to tell you the gross stuff they did before that happens. But I'm fighting them away. I back out of the apartment complex. I take off running. I run all the way home.
Yeah.
I get home. I don't tell my mother anything. I just go home and get in the tub. And just...
Wow.
Yeah, in my mind, later on, I thought I told her. But I realized I never told my mother anything. I never told her anything. I never told anybody that.
Yeah.
Was it like a state of shock type of thing? Or was it like just accepting life, like this is just a normal part of life because you had gone through so much trauma up until that point?
You know, it may have been both because I was so scared that I ran home, and I literally ran about 8 miles.
Yeah.
I ran about 8 miles home, but I was on the track team, so that was nothing for me. I get home, and for whatever reason, my mind told me that I told my mother. But I never told her. I never told her. I got in the tub, I cleaned myself up, and went to school. And I had to see those boys.
Yeah, but we like as kids, again, we not like emotionally mature enough to understand things, so we blame ourselves for things, and we think we come up short in our parents' like I said before, it was a period of time, like a moment in time where I was bullied. I would have never told my mom, and I definitely would have not have told my dad, because if I would have told my dad, like, yo, I got bullied, I feel like my dad would have been mad at me. You know what I mean? So I totally like as a young kid, like we try our best to protect our parents from
we do.
Our reality. The harsh life that we, as kids, go through a lot of shit. And that's why I'm looking at I got nephews, my nephew 20, and I can't imagine some of the things he went through in this day and age. Like kids go through a lot of stuff.
Especially
so now
these days.
Yeah.
So especially, it's way different these days. So now between 8 and 14, it's other events that happens as well, right?
Yeah.
But never this guy again, right? Never this guy.
No, I never, and it's so crazy. I tell people all the time, I can't even tell you what that man looked like.
Yeah.
I cannot even tell you what he looked like. I wouldn't even be able to tell you. I can tell you what my uncle by marriage looked like. Because at 29 years old, he passed away. And the only reason I came to his funeral was because my family asked me to come home.
Yeah.
They never knew he was molesting me.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And here's the crazy part. I get to the funeral. I'm struggling at that age. I'm really struggling because it's really all that stuff, the 8-year-old stuff, the 14-year-old stuff, all that stuff is like really, because now I'm old enough to understand what was happening and how it was happening. So I'm struggling in my life. And I'm in the Navy at the time. And I get to the funeral and I have an aunt. And this is an aunt by marriage. She was an evangelist. She says to me, Latonya, because she hadn't seen me in years. She says, Latonya? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, oh my goodness. You've grown up to be such a beautiful young woman. You were such an ugly little girl. What she didn't know is I was struggling with that ugly little girl inside of me. Because that ugly little girl had so much trauma and so much hurt. And for her to say that to me in that moment was the most hurtful thing that I could have ever heard. And I just stared at her. And I didn't have anything to say. And I was just like, wow.
Right.
You know, and it's those moments that I remember, like, come on.
Right.
Like, our community,
that's why I don't come home.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I ain't never up here.
Come home, you ignorant fools.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm already struggling with all this demon I got inside of me. And then you add to it, you waffle.
Yeah. So now did they find out, like with your family, are they finding out some of this stuff as when the book comes out?
Yep.
So what
crazy. My brother. So I never even told them I was writing the book because I didn't want anybody to be like, you better say this and you better tell the truth. Because you know how family is.
Yeah.
So I told no one that I was writing the book. No one. My husband knew I was writing it. But my husband didn't know half the stuff that he learned by reading it. So when he read it, he was distraught from the book. He was like, baby, you didn't tell me any of this. And I was like, how do I tell you this?
How do
I tell you any of this? My brother, he was reading the book and he had to stop reading it.
I can understand. I could totally understand.
It was like, we need to talk. We definitely need to talk. And I mean, yeah, we do. Because in the book, I blame y'all. Like y'all were my big brothers, and I get it. You know, during that time, everybody had their own stuff that they were dealing with, and it was during the time it was drugs, and you know, in the 80s, drugs everywhere. But still, I was a little girl that needed somebody to look after me, and I didn't have that.
Did you prepare for your family to read this? Like, did you have to get into like, yo, I know that now that this book is out, I gotta be ready for these conversations to come?
Oh yeah. Because I knew once they read it, it was gonna be some real conversations. You can't read that book and not want to talk.
Yeah.
Believe me, when you read it, you're gonna be like, oh. Because when I wrote it, I was like, oh, I cringed in the beginning when I first wrote it. I cringed every time somebody said they got my book. I cringed because I knew that they were about to read a part of me that was horrifying. And I didn't know how to. I knew that I had to just say, you know what? It is what it is. Captain Alada bought my book. And he read it and he was like, Chief, man, you're strong. Because what I read in your book is rough. I said, yeah.
And it's just crazy what we wear, right? Like throughout our life, like everything you wear. And just how good it, like when people say like, I don't look like what I've been through.
Hello.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's the truth. Like you don't, that's why when I go to schools and I talk to people, because people be like, man, I've had people say, you're so inspiring. I said, you know why? I said, because I pray that there's not a little girl or a young man in this audience that is enduring what I did. And so I want to be so compassionate and so thoughtful and so open and to them. I want them to know that whatever they're going through, it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I make sure that every young person in that room feels like I got you. Because nobody did that for me.
Yeah.
Nobody, when I was at school and people would come and speak at the school, nobody made me feel like I could just be like, I'm going to be okay. Mm-hmm. I was always on edge. I was always like, what's my next step and how do I get out of here?
Yeah. And then you harboring, like you got this big weight, right?
Big lie and big weight and just, people are asking you, are you okay? And you're lying and saying, yes. No, I'm not okay. I got so much going on right now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can see it like impacting like everything, you do. It's like I'm gonna give an example. It's gonna be a weird example, right? Just to it's gonna be really weird. But it's like if you see an alien in your basement when you like 6, right? If you see an alien in your and you saw it and it was a real experience, your whole life after that now is like kind of like the course is charted by like knowing that these things exist. Like so when you're dealing with your son, like when you're dealing with I'm sure dealing with your son is impacted by this.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Your time in the Navy is impacted by this. So even before I go there, what I want to ask, I told y'all like the example was going to be really weird, right? But I just read like some declassified alien file earlier. So what I want to go back to is like love, right? Like 2 things, and right, we'll get a little adult like is if you could share a little bit of it. But the first one is like, when did you open up to the idea of love?
Truthfully, honestly, I don't know. I kind of pretended that I knew what love was. Because to me, what my example of love was sex. That's that's what was taught to me at 8 years old. That's love. Somebody has sex with me.
On the first encounter, he said it love. Yeah, when people love each other.
This is what people do when they love each other. So that was my idea of what love was. And so I was messing it up. I had no idea what real love was at all. So I was going through life just...
Yeah. In the streets? It was in the streets? I said that to one of my sellers before. She's like, "What you say, Chief?" I said, like, "You're in the streets." Hot girl. I was like, "You having a hot girl summer?" She, like, "Hey, I'm just trying to connect."
You about to get a Zimio. Trying to connect.
Hot girl summer. And then, but we close. We close. She was like, "Yeah, I was having a hot girl summer." It's like when I was a senior chief. So, all right. So,
because you don't know what love is, because you're not understanding what real love is. And I had to sit down with myself, and it was later on because I kept picking the wrong end.
Yeah. Well, you wasn't looking for love.
I wasn't. I really wasn't. And so, you just kind of moving through life. I was just moving through life. And I'm like, this is not good. Like, I literally have to stop and say, no more.
Yeah.
What is it? What does real love look like? And I had to stop myself and just kind of... I made my husband date me. I said, I can't keep going like this. He had to date me. I had to figure this love thing out, and it needed to be real.
Yeah.
And that's how I figured out. And baby, that's late in the game. I was in my 40s.
But you also had to, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you also had to learn how to love yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I did? Because that's a hard... But when I looked in the mirror, all I saw was that 8-year-old girl, ugly, molested, just all the bad things. Every time I looked at myself, I always saw all the bad stuff. So my girlfriend, she made this analogy with me. She said, you know what, Tanya? She said, you cover up all the ugly in you with all the pretty. She said, your hair always has to be perfect. Your clothes have to be perfect. Your nails, everything has to be so perfect about you. She said, because you're trying to cover up all that ugly. And she made me sit down and think about it. And I was like, you know what? She is absolutely correct. Everything about me had to be perfect. My hair, my nails, my clothes, everything. There couldn't not be a flaw in anything.
Because it's armor.
Right. Because I kept looking at that ugliness that was underneath it to me.
Yeah.
And I had to stop. And I literally, all my clothes off, standing in the mirror, I said, you're going to find something nice to say about yourself, and you're going to stay here until you do it.
Yeah.
And I just had to start saying good things about me, what I saw about me that was good. And I just kept doing it because every time I looked in the mirror, 2.2 seconds, I could tell you all the bad. All the bad about me in 2.2 seconds. It literally took me, I don't know how long to start saying and looking at me and looking at everything about me and saying, you got good stuff going on right here. This looks good. You look good. This is pretty. And it may sound simple, but it wasn't. It was hard. It was hard to look at myself and say that I had good stuff. Not because all of the ugly that I had experienced in all my life that made me always feel like everything about me was just ugly.
Yeah. So now, when do you, and you made me think of a million questions, and I have them, and I'm about to ask them. But when do you start to? It's a weird kind of, it's a weird way to word it, I think. But when do you start to realize that you're not making love? And I'm talking about sex for the listeners. Like we all adults here, right? But when do you realize that, like, even the way you making, because I'm assuming it gets to a point where you like, man, I'm not even like really making love the right way. Like it's not romance. It's not like, so I'm like, so when does
question? So I learned at an early age, sex is powerful, right? Because it had been presented to me. So I learned at an early age, sex is powerful. So what do you think I did?
Used it.
Used it. Very powerful. It was powerful. Sex is powerful. And when you don't understand how it's supposed to be, because you were never taught the real way love and sex and all that's supposed to be, you use it as a weapon. And you get good at it. You get good at it because you know what you're doing, because somebody taught you at 8 years old what that looks like.
Yeah.
And you have to, and I had to stop and say, okay, it can't be a weapon because that's not what it's meant for. Yeah. It's not meant for a weapon, but you have to teach yourself that. You have to teach yourself that, hey man, you can't keep going like this because it's not good for anybody. You're not winning, even when you think you're winning. And listen, I thought I was winning because I was winning, but I wasn't winning. I wasn't winning because I wasn't getting what I really wanted, which was somebody to truly see me and love me with all the ugliness that I had going on, with all of the drama and the trauma that I had. I wanted them to still see me and love me and it'd be okay. And that's hard because when you tell people your truth, some people can't handle it.
Yeah. Especially like that kind of truth.
No, they can't handle that. And when I wrote my book and my husband read, I gave him the first copy to let him read it. And I thought I was going to be divorced after that.
Yeah. I mean,
I just knew he was going to be like, yo, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
But he was like, he processed it and he was like, listen, I'm here. Whenever you need to talk, whatever you need to do, I got you. I said, okay. He's a keeper.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to get time machines for, stories you hear, time machine. Like, yo, where the time machine at, man? I go back there and straighten this out. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Well, I mean, and it's so crazy because I was at his funeral and I remember looking at him and remember thinking, I hope you suffered so bad. I was like, I know that's wrong, God. I know that I should not feel that way, but I hope this man suffered so bad.
Yeah.
He deserves it. He deserved to have suffered. Deserves it. All of them. They deserve it. I hope, and I know it sounds horrible, but and we want to say Christian-like, but they weren't Christian-like.
Yeah. Yep. And then what you don't know is how many other, like, whenever I hear stories like that, like, how many other victims, do these people have? And
I say in there, I said, I don't know if predators understand how much they change the trajectory of a person's life when they do that. Either they don't know or they don't care.
Yeah.
Because once you introduce an innocent, God gives us innocence. When you're born and you're coming up, man, you got nothing but innocence. And for someone to take that from you so early in your life, they change the whole trajectory of your life. Like, they don't know, they don't understand the impact that has on who you are as a person.
Right.
Yeah, you lose a bit of yourself. And I don't see how you don't. Yeah, and I don't see how you don't, like, in this, for all intents, I don't see how somebody doesn't blame themselves. Like, I totally understand when people blame themselves when those things happen, because it's something that you feel like, man, if I wouldn't have went down this, because even as adults, like, you talk about being young and going through this and like having to like live with this and blame yourself. But even as adults, like, if this happens to an adult, like if they get raped or something like that, they never the same. I saw a 23-year-old, after something happened with her, she was never the same. She lost her husband. She blamed herself. It took her a long time to recover or rebound from this.
And I watch it a lot of times. I watch these women, and it's always like, you see them before, like, how you watch the show and you'll see like a before picture of them before they were assaulted and things happen. And then afterwards they look weird. Like their hair is blue, or they just go.
They lost a little bit of it.
And it's like, there has to be something. Like, I remember when I started going to counseling, because I finally had to go to counseling for it. And I was going to counseling and I was talking to my counselor about it, and I was telling the whole story about it. And she was like, you were lost. And I said, yeah. But I thank God that I didn't, because a lot of them turn to drugs. And I think a lot of times what they do is turn to drugs. And I think the military saved me from that.
Yeah.
I think joining the military is what saved me from becoming that statistic that I see on TV when I see someone who has said, somebody assaulted me and hurt me so bad that they then their life
just go down this narrow spiral.
It's so bad. And I honestly, the Navy don't know. I really, my Navy career, I tell people all the time, because, when I talk to young people, they always say, you're only going to talk about the good things. I'm like, listen, in life, there's always going to be good and bad. I said, that's just life. I said, you are always going to work for somebody, or you're going to have your own business. And even when you have your own business, you are working for your customers. So you're always going to be working for somebody. I said, but let me tell you something. You have to figure out what you're doing is going to make you have way more good days than bad days. Because that's it. We go through life trying to be something that's outstanding, amazing, and oh my God, I'm going to be this kind of person. I strive to make sure that I have way more good days than bad days.
Yeah, and when your tour is over, I mean, like, when you 2 tours from the tour 2 tours ago, you kind of don't remember the bad days. You just remember the good day. I tell people, like, man, like, I had to dig deep to think about the bullshit that we went through at this command. Like it's not easy. You remember the great moments. So I wanna go into the Navy with you, but before that, it's lingering, and I'm thinking about it. Where was your dad throughout all this?
So my mom left my dad, and we moved to.
Oh yeah, y'all moved. Yeah,
we moved to Texas. I was 8.
Yeah, and you never saw your dad again?
Yeah, he would come and visit. They tried to get back together, but that, you know how that works.
Yeah.
But my dad was my favorite person, yo. That was my dog. Like because he spoiled me.
Yeah, and he was also long distance, so he wasn't in your household when all this was happening.
No. I think he would probably kill somebody, especially if he was outside, because he was.
Is he still around?
No, my dad died on my birthday.
Oh, this year?
My 21st birthday.
Oh, your 21st birthday.
Oh, your 21st birthday.
So that was last year. No, I'm just saying.
I know, right?
So he never knew. He never knew.
No, he never knew anything about it. My mother, I won't lie. So my mother has dementia, and when I wrote the book, she was getting early onset dementia, and I would never, because I don't want her to feel like she failed me as a mom. I would never allow her to read my book, so she knows nothing of any of it. And now, her full blown dementia, she thinks she's pregnant, child.
Oh Lord. Jesus.
Hey, have you?
Hold on.
It's crazy how we can go from laughing to something serious.
I know, right?
Have you spoken to your dad in spirit, like a spiritual conversation about any of this?
No, that's a good idea, and I think I should. I really do think I should, because I'm sure he watched down and saw this and was like, "That's my baby girl." Because, truth be told, my brothers and sisters hated me because I was his favorite. So one of my brothers tried to kill me.
Oh man,
Lord.
My brother tried to suffocate me, y'all.
With the pillow? With the pillow?
Oh Lord!
He was like, "Oh, you got to go. You spoiled. You got to go."
Was he the next? Like, would he have been the youngest if it not been for you?
He was. So it was my little sister, me, my brother, then him. But he was like, I'm gonna do it for the family.
Dude watching too much Hand That Rocks the Cradle or some wow.
Like, I'm gonna do it for the family. Nobody else gonna do it. I got y'all. Hold on.
So what attracted you to the Navy? Like, what brought you to the Navy?
So I was dating this guy. I was dating this guy who joined the Navy, and I was like, and I was in college at the time. I was going to TSU in Houston. And I was dating this guy who went off to the Navy, and I was like, my scholarship was trash. Yes. For all you people out there, watch your scholarship. Make sure it's got real money, because mine was trash. And I was struggling, man. My mother didn't have any money to, help me out. So I was struggling. And I said, and I was walking by the Navy office, and I said, let me go in here and talk to these people real quick. And actually, I was going to join the Marines because I thought their uniforms were cute.
Yeah.
But when I got into the building, the Marines were locked and the Navy door was wide open. So I went in there, and the guy and actually, me and the guy who put me in the Navy, we are still friends to this day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He put me in the Navy, and we are like, I used to go home and we would get together and have margaritas. I haven't been home in a while, so I'm going to have to look him up. But he put me in the Navy, and let me tell you, we neither one of us can get in trouble now. So he knew that I was not going to go, because it gets to the point that you about to go to boot camp and you start getting the cold feet. Came to my mother's house and came and got me and made me sleep on his couch. He was like, right here, right here. You going?
Yeah,
you're going. And he got me up that morning and took me on.
So, what was your rate?
So I started out as undesignated. I made a 50 on the ASVAB, and they made me undesignated. How about that?
Oh, no, they didn't.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. So I was undesignated. I got to my first command. I didn't like getting dirty. They had me in deck department.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this bullshit right here. I want to do this.
Smelling like seawater.
Yes. Yes. I said, oh, this ain't for me.
Seawater.
So I found OS. They always looked nice. Their uniforms always were pressed and clean. I said, that's my next job.
Yeah.
So I became an OS. And then and once I got into recruiting, I just converted over to NC.
Yeah. And then how was those any standout moments in those early Navy years for you?
So I tell you this one situation that happened, and it was a racial situation. And so when I first joined the Navy, I had really long hair. And we were up on the deck, and we were chipping and painting with the little needle guns. Remember those? Y'all probably never seen those.
I remember the needle guns.
Okay.
I remember.
So we was
Tish ain't seen one. You see Tish? Hold on.
Like,
hold on. Let's go back. Let's rewind. How you rewind that? Yeah. Tish, you haven't seen the needle gun? You know, look like needle gun look like.
That wasn't my Navy. That ain't my story. That ain't my testimony.
Yeah,
that is not my testimony.
So all the black girls were up on the deck, chipping, painting with the needle guns. The white girls were down on the YFN braiding each other's hair. I have always been the person that had a voice when I wanted to. I'm looking and I'm like, I'm full of chip paint, just dirty. And I looked down and I said, hold a minute. Got my little self up. I walked down there and I went to the chief. I said, so, if we're down here braiding hair, we all need to be down here braiding hair. Because there's not going to be a fact that all us black people, and I said it just like that, black people up here chipping and painting, and all these white girls are down here on the YFN braiding each other's hair. I got hair too. Somebody want to braid mine?
Yeah.
She hurried up and got him out of there. I was like, girl, you won't stop playing with me?
Oh, so this was a lady chief.
Yes. I said, you don't stop playing with me. Are you crazy? Hella crazy. And this was in the 90s. I joined the Navy in the 90s. I had 7 years of broken service in 1992.
Okay.
So I have 7 years of broken service. But I was like, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Yeah.
But my favorite moment is I had a black captain. And we had Black History Month. And he was like, we did a whole program. And he was like, everybody, if you want to be a part of the program, pick what you're going to do or what you're going to speak about and do it. And I think I did Maya Angelou, No Crystal Stare or something like that. And he was just so gracious. I remember when I got in trouble, he was just so gracious. And he listened because he understood, right? He knew what was going on, right?
Yeah.
So when I got in trouble, he assigned my punishment or awarded my punishment, but I didn't put in a chit to request to talk to the commanding officer. And I sat down with him and I explained to him everything that was going on and how it came to be where we were. And he said, thank you. He said, I'm so glad you said something because I would not know any of this. Because of course they weren't going to say what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, cool. And he slowly, not like, so they wouldn't know that I had told. He just slowly worked it out. And he was just catching them left and right. And I was just sitting back like this. Look at God.
Yeah.
Like, who did what?
Because, back in the day, back during that time, there was a lot of racism. A lot of people. And they was open with it. And they didn't care. That's why I tell people when I do my speeches, I always say the Navy has come so far from what I know. Because I got to be in the Navy in the early 90s. I got to see that part of the Navy. up to the 2000s to where it is a different organization. And because there's some things like, the SAPR program in the 1990s, that didn't even exist. Never existed. That program did not come around, I think, until 2008. So guess what was happening all of time up until 2008?
Right. So when was your broken service?
I got out in 1995. Got out in 95, and I was in the reserves from 95 to 2003. Okay. Yeah. And then I went back, and then I came back on active duty as a recruiter. I was a canvasser recruiter.
Yeah, and just for the record, I just looked it up. Yeah, SAPR, it says 05.
Yeah.
So that's not like that's.
And I was in the Navy in 1992, where they was.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. Like I tell people all the time, I say the Navy evolves, and I do love where the Navy is right now. I hate what's happening right now because some of the scholarships that we gave away were so phenomenal. So phenomenal. And because of this diversity thing right now, they're no longer offering them. And so you have these young people who are hitting me up saying, hey, I didn't get this one. Can I apply for the minority one? And I'm having to tell them it no longer exists.
Yeah.
Wow. And that was so beneficial to our community because the minority scholarship, the requirements were a little different. I mean, you still had to have a pretty high GPA, but and I mean, you needed 2.75 GPA, but the SAT and ACT scores were a little bit higher, but you still qualify for this scholarship. And it was for, it was for people of color.
Minorities, yeah.
Minorities. But you know who was getting them more? You want to know who was getting them more?
Who? I'm glasses.
People not of color?
White women.
Yeah.
Because they're considered minorities.
Minorities, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They were getting the minority scholarship more than people of color. So it was killing me to think you're trying to get rid of something that benefits you so hard. That program is amazing. And and I'm hoping that it comes back because these students, these kids who want and need to go to college, that's their opportunity. You're giving them, that was the big thing. And so there's another scholarship that hopefully I think they got rid of because it was what's called the Navy's preparatory program. And it was a 2-year, it was a 1-year scholarship that we were giving out for people who don't score high on the SAT or the ACT. And I think they got rid of it because it was considered for minorities.
Yeah. Yeah. So all these minority scholarships and stuff.
So
and the crazy thing is some people need, even the outreach that y'all were doing, like the outreach that y'all were doing, like a lot of what other people saw, it ain't gonna speak to us in those neighborhoods. Like Top Gun ain't really Top Gun ain't do it for me like it, did it for some of these other people. You know what I'm saying? Like, so sometimes we need people to go in these neighborhoods and speak to us in a different conversation. It's a different and that's the part that people don't understand sometimes when we talk about like unification or whatever like that, like or being colorblind. Like the flavor is different places. Like, so if you're not delivering this juice my flavor, then I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid. I know how my grandma Kool-Aid tastes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
My grandma Kool-Aid tastes better than the Kool-Aid. Like the company Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? Like, when they make they little jammers, like that ain't grandma.
That ain't.
That's that corporation Kool-Aid.
Yes.
So we need people to, and I'm speaking metaphorically, but we need people to speak our
representation.
language.
Representation matters. And you can see it. We would go into communities. We would bring pilots. I got a friend. His name is Muhammad. What is his? How do I say his name? He's a lieutenant in the Navy. Baba Ganda. Muhammad Baba Ganda. This man, he's a black man. He's a scientist.
Yeah.
Smart. But he was able to go in these neighborhoods with us and talk to these kids, because when he was a young man, he got shot.
Yeah.
So he was able to tell them his story and make it make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We
It's
had
emotional connection.
Yes. We had, we had all these wonderful people who looked like us go into our community and say, listen, I came from where you at. But this is what I did. This is how now look at me.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm a commander. I'm a captain. We had a commander who's a fighter pilot. Our brother, fighter pilot.
Uh-huh.
This man played the saxophone.
Yeah. He had that sauce. He had that. People just got to understand, though, it's not always about resistance. Sometimes it's about connection.
It is.
And it's not bad. Like we get, we having all these conversations nowadays. Establishing a connection based off a shared kind of like experience or thing, it's not a bad thing. I went to my new command today. I went to visit my command that I'm about to go to today. And one of the sellers had a Love Yours tattoo, right? And that's the name of a J. Cole song. Like, I'm J. Cole, man. Like, that's my dude.
I know.
So, like, so I'm talking to him like, yo, that come from the Cole song? And she probably, I already know she never had a conversation with no CMC that about Cole and who knew that that's where her tattoo came from and all that. And I was looking at I'm looking at their eyes like light up. Like, yo,
yo,
he one of us.
Real.
And I'm like, he is like us, And it was just, it's just like, that was a really good feeling because I know I'm going somewhere where I'm going to be impactful to a whole bunch of sellers. And it's not about siphoning off the sellers that don't look like you or the sellers that didn't come from where you come from. But it's about the power and the connection of the people that's inspired by people that been through what they've been through and saw what they saw. You know what I'm saying? That's why nowadays, that's why like these, here go another little metaphor, but that's why these like sports podcasts work now with the real athletes that actually played the game. That's why Permission to Speak Freely work with active duty chiefs that's actually in the game. You know what I mean? It's all about establishing a connection.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And targeting the high schools and like the younger generation, it's like capture them before the community, their area captures them, sends them in the wrong direction to where the opportunity they can't even have that opportunity. So it's just like getting them early, let them see that there's something bigger out there, because a lot of times they only see what's around them.
Absolutely.
And what's around them may not be the best thing and may not give them a lot of hope. And they may not see a lot of representation. They just see everybody struggling and they think, okay, when I grow up, this is what I have to look forward to also. Like this is as far as it gets for me. And so they see somebody who comes in like that and it's just like, dang, I can be that too. They start to, and visualize themselves in that uniform and giving them hope of what else they can do and aspire to. And it's like, it's sad that that's not available.
And you talk about representation, because when we go to these schools, these kids, they'll be like, we didn't know that there were Black people.
Right.
Like, what?
Yeah, right. In 2025.
Yeah. Or they don't like, it's so funny because I went to a school and it was, of course, not a Black school, but I asked the students, because one of my biggest questions is, I said, raise your hand, tell me what an HBCU is. Right? Because we give an HBCU scholarship. This young lady said, is that a credit union?
I know exactly which one they think about too.
So I looked at her, I looked right in the counselor's face and I said, you need to do better. I said, regardless if this is a Black school, white school, whatever, you need to do better, because I can guarantee you there ain't all white students at this school.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not. These babies should know what I went to classes where there was all Black kids and they didn't even know what an HBCU was. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. But I'm not surprised though.
But I told those students, I said, listen, I said, if you are not engaging your guidance counselor, then they're getting paid for free. They're getting paid to do nothing. I said, because the job they're supposed to be doing is teaching you how to apply for college, teaching you what you need for college, helping you with your applications. That is their job. And if you are not making them do their job, then they just coast.
Yeah, they got an easy job.
They got an easy job. I said, you need to go in there and be in their faces and asking them questions. I should not be the first time you heard about an HBCU.
Yeah.
Some kids, I'm like, y'all, my guidance counselor screwed me. I had got a scholarship, y'all, for college, and I was like, scholarship, baby, I'm good. What my guidance counselor didn't do is because she assumed that I was, that because we went to school in the hood, we did, that I wouldn't account to nothing. So she didn't feel like she needed to, help me at all. I get to TSU. My scholarship was trash. So I spent 1 year in college, and that's how I ended up joining the Navy. Because my scholarship, my mother didn't have any money to give me.
Yeah.
And it didn't pay for shit.
Yeah.
What were you on school for?
I wanted to be a journalist.
Nice. You could start a podcast.
Yep.
People keep telling me to do that. I'm gonna have to look into it. I honestly don't know what to do. And
you got
the technical stuff that y'all
somebody that can help you.
Well, I got a family now.
Yeah.
I love it. I always wanted to be a journalist, but I went to school for that, and then I joined the Navy, and I was like, I'm only gonna do 4 years to pay for college.
Yeah.
They got you.
They got me.
It's too much fun.
I've had such a good time, but now I'm a flight attendant.
Yeah, I was about to ask you what you've been up to.
So I was telling her when you got off the phone. So when I retired, I've always wanted to be a flight attendant. I thought it was the sexiest, cutest little job. The girls are walking through the airport with little outfits on. Y'all should saw me today. Every time I put that uniform, I'd be cute. But I don't like it. Is that bad? I don't like it.
That's not bad.
Is it because you've done a whole career and all that? So it's like...
Yeah. It's not my thing. I've enjoyed my time, and I don't know how much longer I'll do it. I've enjoyed it, but it's not me. It's not something I want to just do.
Yeah.
But now you're in a space to do everything you like.
Right.
You're in a space to go and do whatever it is. You always want to be a flight, do it. Like you want to be what's it called, like a barista at Starbucks? Go do it. Like you can just go do whatever it is. You're tired.
I said now that when I stopped doing this, I'm gonna. I said I because my book did do book of the year.
Yeah.
So I'm so proud of it.
Here we go. What's this?
I'm not finna be the bigger man. I'm not gonna let you keep.
Oh, that's Shay Shay. We got retired. Oh my God.
We gotta put the Shay Shay on.
Congratulations on
that. Hey.
Yeah, that's what's up.
So I'm really excited. So I'm thinking maybe I'll do something maybe to promote my book a little bit more for a little while, or whatever I want to do, because I'm retired now. Like I told them at this job, I was like, I don't need this job.
What would you do, like a unabridged audiobook version of your book?
I did the first 3 chapters, but it was kind of hard to read because it's very emotional. So I did the first 3 chapters. When I had to record a couple of chapters over because it was just emotional reading what I wrote. But I am going to finish it. And that's probably going to be my first project, is to finish the audiobook, because I don't want anybody else to read my story.
I was about to say, I'm glad you're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing it.
Yeah. I want to read my own story. So I'm going to finish that first. And then try to, I'm actually going through a new publisher, because I published through Amazon, but now I'm going to go through a publishing company and let them publish it, because then they do a lot more of, the getting you out there, getting you signings and stuff. Because I did my own book signings, which I did pretty good, but there's a lot more that I know my book can do. If I can win Book of the Year from a publishing company that I didn't even publish with, then I think I can do pretty good.
Right.
Yeah. And I think the unabridged, kind of like an unabridged version of it would be cool because you got the ability to, or like raw, uncut, unfiltered version of it, because you got the ability to veer off from just reading line by line. Because I think it'd be hard, even if I wrote a book, I think it'd be hard for me to just read it. You know what I'm saying? So, but if you go like unabridged, like even like the format of like a podcast format, but it's an audiobook, you could kind of just go off script a little bit and get deeper into like some stories you might have talked about. I mean, I would love. I'm an audiobook dude. Your book looked like it looked like a.
It's a quick read.
It looked like it looked like a good read, like the way the text is and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like too many words on the pages, so I feel like it's gonna be a good read for me.
My niece called me. She said, "Auntie," because she had bought my book, and she was like, "Auntie, I couldn't put your book down. I read it. I didn't finish it till 4:00 in the morning, but I couldn't put it down." And I was like, "So sweet." So sweet.
Yeah, that's dope. Do you ever think about doing another one?
So maybe, because I don't want to just write something just to write something. It needs to have some meaning for me. You know what I mean? I don't want to write it because I think it'll make me money, because that's not why I even wrote that book. That's not it. I want it to mean something. It needs to mean something, and it needs to be important. And maybe I'll tell my after story from the trauma to now, and retiring, and all the goodness that life has given me, because I don't want people to think that, oh God. I mean, even though the last chapter of my book, when you read it, is the actual letter to my 8-year-old self. And it's so funny. It ended up being 8 chapters. And that was not. It was not on purpose. And do you know, I found out after I wrote that book, because I was on the computer typing like this, and I found out there's like a Microsoft has like the voice thing.
Yeah. Dang.
I'm thinking about doing that.
I was like, wow.
So I literally got 2 more questions. I'm gonna ask them both of them, and then however you choose to answer them. So, because I want to know, like, what does your husband mean in your life, right? Like, what does your husband mean in your life? But also, what did therapy do for you? So I guess the first question, probably the easier one, would be like, what did therapy do for you?
So therapy made it easier to talk about it. Because at one point, I couldn't even talk about it without just breaking into tears and not even being able to complete the conversation.
Did therapy come before the book or after the book?
Before.
Okay, all right.
Before the book. But I also went to therapy after I finished the book too. Because it brought out some things that I had forgotten. Some things that I had actually forgotten. And that brought more trauma. Because I stopped writing for like 6 months. Because I couldn't stop crying.
Yeah.
I just couldn't stop crying. And I was like, I need some help right now. And so I stopped, and I started going, and I started talking to a counselor and just trying to navigate through it. Because there were some things that I had just, when you go through trauma, I think God has this way of your brain and just kind of cutting it off. And it's gone until you wake it up. And once you wake it up, it's back. And it's back with a vengeance. And you just have to, you need to work on it. You need to talk to somebody. You can't just say it's life. No, it's not just life. Those things make differences in your life. And I can tell you, as a woman now than the woman before, I am lighter. I feel much lighter. It doesn't feel heavy anymore because it's not a secret anymore. My trauma is no longer a secret, and I can talk about it because it's no longer a secret. But when I talked about it with my counselor, I would cry so hard. It would be, it was just difficult to even just mention it. And it was hard But I knew I needed to talk to somebody. I needed to get it out. But even just talking about it, I don't think it was enough. It wasn't until I started putting pen to paper and I just started writing that I felt like I was getting more of it out, because I was actually remembering and writing. Every time I remembered something, I would just write it down. Every time something would come up, I would write it down. And it kept getting lighter and lighter.
Yeah. Yo, you just gave me chills.
Yeah.
Throughout my whole body.
Wow. Wow.
For two reasons. One was what you said, right? But like, again, I'm this weird person that watched all these movies and TV shows, right? So what you said reminded me about when you talked about the trauma and how like you think it just like kind of just blacks out, right? Mm-hmm. It's an episode of, I'm a big Twilight Zone fan, like the old black and white show.
I love right? Twilight Zone.
Yeah. So if you get a chance, right, it's an episode. It's called, I think it's called Nightmare as a Child, right? Mm-hmm. You might have saw it. But it's about this lady who she coming home and it's a girl in her hallway. It's like a girl outside of her apartment. And the girl looks familiar to her, but she don't know. So pretty much the girl wound up coming in her house and like the girl like, you don't know me for real? She like, I don't know who you are. You know, and the girl just keep, you know, talking to her, trying to remind her who she is. And the girl is telling her that like somebody is coming to kill her, that she like remembered like that she should know who the person is. So the girl like, hey, did you see this person in the car today? And she like, yeah, I did. She was like, did he look familiar to you? She like, no. And the girl like, yo, you have to remember. You got to remember who this person is, right? And the reason why she telling her she got to remember is because the person is coming to kill her, right? And who this person is this dude that killed her mom when she was a young girl. And who the young girl is her, trying to get her to remember this trauma that she blocked out for like all these years, yo. And what you said just gave me chills because it made me, like, it perfectly described what that episode was.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because, and how hard this lady was like resisting to like really remember who the girl was her. She like, yo, you don't remember me? You know, so just you saying that.
That is really, it's like that. Like I had gone years without remembering the thing I told you about, the walking through the neighborhood and what happened to me.
Yeah.
Blocked that out of my head. Gone until I started writing.
Yeah.
And when I started writing, I was like, and when I tell you I had to stop for 6 months, I needed some counseling because it hit me so hard that I was a young girl who didn't tell anybody, had to go back to school and see these guys all the time. And they tried to rape. Mm-hmm. How? Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was tough. It was definitely a hard. And I feel for people who don't know how to get help or don't have the resources. Because some people just don't have the resources to get help.
Right.
And you just living with that trauma every day. And that's why they be wearing blue and green and gold and yellow and purple hair, because they're trying to get all them demons out their head.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times we walk around as leaders with that trauma and we have the resources, but we just don't use it because we're so inundated by everything else around us.
Yes.
And you don't really recognize your own traumas.
Yeah.
And all the stuff that you need from yourself. You don't take care of yourself. The only thing you're focused on is the mission, the sailors, and your family.
We're taught
and that's
to
it.
do that. Yeah, we're taught to take care of sailors. And we get so inundated with that. Okay, I got to make sure my sailors are okay. But your sailors ain't going to be okay if you're not okay. That's what you have to realize. They're not, because even though we think people don't feed off of us, they do. They understand, they feel, they know what's happening. They know when something is going on with you. And that's why I used to tell my sailors all the time, listen, get help. I don't care. You don't tell me you don't have the time. You always have time for your health. You always have time for your mental health. Don't ever tell me you don't have time for that, because you do. And I made time for myself because I kept saying to myself, man, if I don't take care of me, nobody else will.
It starts with you first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I went through, I think, so going back to what you were saying about blocking stuff out, I remember I started going to counseling while I was active duty, like maybe a few years before. And as soon as it started to get, like she wanted to get into like the trauma that I didn't want to get into, I stopped going.
Because that's what we do.
Like,
you were not ready. You were not ready to feel that. Not at all. It was going to be hard. And
yep.
And that's what we do.
Yep.
Honest truth is that what we do.
I think it took, because I stopped going, and then right before I retired, I started going back again.
Okay.
And then I think it was my fourth therapist that I had gone through before I opened. Listen.
I understand. Maybe I understand about the therapist. I understand.
I went through, and some of it wasn't really anything that was like, there was only one that I didn't like, and I did not like this man, could connect with him. I was like, but the other ones, it wasn't anything that they were doing. It just goes back to what you were saying. I wasn't ready to open that up. And I kind of mentioned it a little bit to not my last one, but the one before. And then anytime she would, you ready to dive into it? No, not yet. Let's talk about, let's talk about something else. And, but then also I felt like I needed to develop those coping skills, because I was afraid of opening Pandora's box
and not being able to
I was like, I need to make sure I'm mentally good before we go there. And although that was a real thing, that was also part of my excuse to hold off on it too. But I really was concerned, like, I don't want to open this up and then, I not be ready to handle it.
Yep.
And so it took me a little minute, but even still, with going through all those coping skills, when I finally did open it up, oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
Lord have mercy.
It's like a punch in the chest, ain't it?
It did. Oh, Lord.
It hurts so
Lord.
bad.
It does. And I really, and that's kind of part of me distancing myself from social media and kind of the world a little bit, is I just needed to get back to me and like get rid of the distractions, get rid of, me focusing on everybody else and really like focusing on me, because I realized like I've been an issue for a long time.
Yeah.
And blaming I didn't see that I was an issue because like you said, I know like I'm perfect. I am perfect. I've put my shield on. I'm good. I'm not the problem. The world is the problem. But then I found out like, I'm part of the problem because I had that shield up. Mm-hmm. And so your book, I can't wait to get my wine, get my tissue.
You're gonna need it.
And go in on it. I could relate to a lot of the things that you were saying. That's why I was like, oh Lord, wait a minute. I wasn't quite ready for this conversation. I wasn't right. I know we was gonna go there. I was like, wait a minute. Because there were certain things that I could relate to and traumas and all of that stuff. And it's just like, a lot of people will be able to relate to that, men and women. Like,
absolutely.
I did not even realize really until like the last couple years how many men, had their first sexual encounters at a young age with an older woman, and so it's like men experience the same thing.
When they talk about it, it's like, that's not rape. It is.
Right.
Yeah, I was in Philly, man. This girl named Tank Mommy, man. I was like 14. Tank Mommy might have been 26, man.
See what I'm saying? And that's
Tank
rape.
Mommy. Yeah. Tank
That's rape.
Mommy.
There's no reason for that grown woman to find nothing attractive about that 14-year-old man.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
We just thought we were winning. We young.
Yeah.
Right.
Boys just think they're winning.
Yep.
About my boy.
And then they get these unhealthy habits, though.
Absolutely.
The unhealthy sex habits.
I just realized my mom listened to this. I might have been like 16 or something. What up, Mom? But yeah, it was some somewhere between in those ages, right? I think it might have been 14 because I graduated. Yeah, it might have been like 14. Yeah, Tank Mommy, man. North Philly.
You better tell your mama before she
I didn't play about my boys.
You can tell my mom.
Because I knew what happens. My kids could not spend the night over nobody's house unless it was family. And if they wanted to hang out with their friends, they had to come to my house.
Yeah.
Well, nope. Because here's even more. And I know my ex-husband does not know this, but when he would give them a bath, I would watch him. Not because it was out of sheer not that I thought he would do anything. It was just out of the fact that I know what happens, you know, and I would watch him and he never, ever did anything, but it was just fear, that fear of knowing what people do to babies and kids. Like I couldn't even let my own husband give my children baths without me watching. And he never knew I was watching. And I was watching.
Yeah, but that's how that trauma, that's how this shit, people don't know and understand. That's how this shit, I'm not preferential to watching my daughter. You know, I would prefer my wife to do it. And I'm not worried about myself, you know, but the life that we lived and the things that we've seen and the things that we know affects how we live.
Yep.
You know?
It affects how you live.
Yeah, and it affects the way we think and what we careful of and all the stuff, right?
People don't realize how traumatic it is. I can't even watch a man hold his daughter on his lap without cringing. Without thinking, why does he have that baby on his lap? Why does he have that little girl on his lap?
Yes.
Because I remember what the person that had me on their lap was doing.
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Before you go, like I said, my other question was and I'm telling you, man, we could talk forever. But my other question was about but they got this curry chicken upstairs. My wife and them, they got this curry chicken, and they made it. My mother-in-law made it yesterday, so I'm like, you know. But what I want to ask you about is your husband. Your husband. So this is your second marriage?
This is my second marriage.
Yeah, your husband now, just what does he mean in your life?
He's my calm space. He's my space of, I know I can go to him and everything's okay. He is my space of, when we're on the couch, I just lay on his lap and I don't have to do nothing, say nothing. And it's just peace. He's my peace. He knows how to be that peace for me too. He knows how to, because I'm the one that gets riled up, right? I'm the one that'll burn the building down. He's the one that'll say, "Oh, babe, come on, let's just talk first. Let's find out what the issue is." He's that for me. He's the one that'll say, "Girl, come on, let me go get you some crawfish." Or he is that for me. He's that person that just makes everything okay. Yeah. And I know if I'm with him, if he's by my side, then it's okay. And that's all I ever wanted.
So how long have you guys been together?
9 years.
9 years. Okay.
Well, so married 9, but we've been together 11.
Okay. So during the time before you had the therapy and you were holding all of this stuff in, how did that affect your marriage?
I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do as a girlfriend and a wife, right? Because you get this, you can watch how people are supposed to be. So you know what you're supposed to do. I've watched it. I've seen it. I've seen it on TV. I've seen how people do it. So that's what I was mimicking. What I needed to do. And once I released everything and was just like, I've been doing this all wrong. Yeah. Now it's like, I know what I feel. I know who I am. I know what he means to me. And that's all that matters. And so I always try to make sure he understands what he means to me and who he is to me. And and I'm always, he makes me giggle all the time, but he is like my friend. He's my friend. And that's how it should be. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, you always know how to dress it up. That's like one of the things that's like the theme you've been saying for the whole time. Like you always knew how something should, like, you know how to dress up the plate. You know how to make the plate look good, you know? Man, I mean, you got anything else, Tish? You got any other thoughts, questions, anything you want to get off?
Nah, I don't think I can. I really don't think, like, I'm just trying to hold it together this episode. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm just gonna read the book. I'm gonna order the book. I'm gonna read the book. Like I said, with my wine and my tissue, and I got your email address, so I might reach out to you later.
Please do.
I feel like you my soul sister right now. I really do. I really do. And Damo, no, I'm not really that person though to be like, oh, let me reach out. I don't be wanting nobody. Don't reach out to me. I be trying to keep my circle.
I'm not laughing about that because that always mean like they got to reach out to me, and I'm like, oh, man, and I'm not giving like. Hey, bro, she ain't got an address. She got a PO box. Hey, bro, I reached out to her like 2 times. Like, I don't, like, the one thing about me is I don't like my life complicated, you know? So he's just like complicated.
Watch how you fucking talk to me. My bad. If you do that shit again, it's going to be a problem. All right? So you can take that however you want. I'm happy to have a peaceful conversation with you. But what you're not going to do is talk to me like that. You understand?
I yield. My bad.
Yield.
I yield.
Tish just complicates my life with this. Like we meet good people. They like want to send books and stuff, and it's like, yo, Damo, like I reached out to her already. I'm like, yo, bro, like I'm gonna reach out again. Like I don't want to do none of that shit. Like I don't ever want to. Like even my wife know. Like as one thing I don't like is my life being complicated. Like the moment they say, "Hey, I'm going to put you on a brief hold," I'm done. I'm like, yeah. Hey, I'm going to put you on a brief hold. What the fuck, a brief hold? No, not brief holding. No.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just, you know, I'm bad with that, man. Oh well, you know, like we just don't have the bread you want today at this restaurant. All right, well, looks like I'm going to another restaurant. I'm sorry. Any complication in my life, I do not want, man. You know, my wife uses my Amazon account, so every time she returns something, I get these email notifications. I don't want those notifications. You know, so Tisha, I just wanted you to know that, just in case you ain't know, man. I don't ever want to be a part of you being a recluse, man. You know what I mean? Like, now I gotta be a part of her. I'm a recluse too. Like I can't. Like,
we both can't be recluse.
Like, where's Damon when you need him? Hey, Tanya, speaking of that, you got to come back, man, when Damon here, just to kick it with us, and, you know, and vibe with us.
Absolutely.
Like I told you before I hit record again, this is one of my favorite episodes, one of my favorite conversations. Just being able to laugh, you know, have fun, and then dig into like some deeper topics.
Absolutely.
And you holding a space for those, especially like a person like me. Like I'm not always the most like empathetic when asking questions and all of that. Like I'm like more analytical. So just to be able to hold that space and go there in those places, I really appreciate it. I had a great time. This going to be one of those like just diamond in the rough episodes too, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I was so excited, guys. Y'all don't know. We don't get to talk about the hard stuff and still be, you know, and have some comedy in it. You know, yeah, it's the hard stuff, but you know, there's some, you know, life is too short and you gotta laugh sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got an open invite for the people watching on YouTube. Yes, Tisha's camera somehow got real blurry.
I was looking at that. I was like, what happened there?
You know it's blurry too. She knows blurry, guys.
Yeah, I saw it. I was like, dang, he shaded me, and then the camera just got blurry.
Luckily, this is the outro, so it ain't gonna be no clips from this part. But hey, Tanya, man, thanks for coming and kicking it with us. You understood the assignment and you executed like perfectly. So we appreciate you, and you could always come up. You got always come back.
I appreciate the invite. Thank you so much. This was dope. Thank you, guys.